What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's all kinds of crazy news to go over this week, lots of rare and exotic hypercars, but then there's also some stuff that's more practical towards the end of the video. So be sure to check out the timestamps in the description below if you want to skip around at all. But for those of you who want to stick around for everything here, the first story this week is Nissan has revealed this GTR X 2050 concept, and so clearly a far out concept, but they're doing a new GTR concept, which is notable in and of itself. But this concept is supposed to imagine what a GTR might be like in 30 years, of course. It was actually a project that one of their interns just sketched out and rendered on a computer, but then Nissan decided to build it as a physical concept car, which is awesome. So as you can see, it's a single-seater, very low and small, only 2 feet high and 10 feet long, and you actually lay on your stomach and pilot it somewhat like a motorcycle, and the lack of a windshield is okay because you wear a VR helmet that uses the car's cameras to see where you're going. And Mr. Choi, who is the designer, says it's supposed to feel like you're wearing the car as an extension of your body, saying, "Exoskeletons today make people stronger by wearing mechanical structures. I tried to fit the size of a person's body as much as I could, as if I were wearing a car." He also was inspired by Iron Man, he says, and imagines the car could be powered by an arc reactor potentially in 30 years. Seems a little further out than 30 years, but who knows? And so that would create electricity for the motors theoretically, and that's that glowing thing you see there in type of a mid-engine location. The wheels and tires are also one piece and can actually turn 360 degrees. And then the vice president of Nissan Design America said that Choi has essentially envisioned a new mode of transportation that people could experience like clothes, wearable instead of a traditional vehicle carriage. It is the kind of breaking the mold thinking that has always been encouraged here at NDA. We've been honored to help bring Choi's vision to life. A very cool idea, and there's been a few others that have kind of toyed with this kind of thing in the past. I believe there was the BMW M concept that they came out with not so long ago also was kind of thinking about the idea of having someone like leaning forward in a cockpit instead. And of course that goes back also the Batman, Batmobile tumbler thing, he kind of did that a little bit as well. So yeah, it's a very cool idea. I would love to try out something like that someday, if that in the far out distant future, if that's how we drive enthusiast vehicles, that would be a lot of fun and very awesome to have that kind of an imagination, and actually for Nissan to build it. That's super cool. So awesome to see that. No news about any actual real next generation GTR. Maybe some of the cues you see on this concept maybe could show up sometime down the road, maybe headlights, taillights, things like that. We'll have to wait and see. But interesting nonetheless. Another crazy concept that actually was built was Jaguar made the Vision Gran Turismo SV. So sadly it's just meant for the Gran Turismo racing game, but they did build one in real life, and it's a follow-up to the Jaguar Vision Gran Turismo they made last year. And so this one, being the SV version, has an extra electric motor for a total of 4, along with extra aerodynamics for better handling. I won't go into all the performance specs because it's all wildly unrealistic and video game stuff, but it's very cool, insanely fast, and they say it's going to be available to play in the game next year, although they didn't clarify which Gran Turismo game, whether it be Sport or the new one coming next year most likely. But interesting to see that. It looks super cool though. I love that thing. Now for some actual real cars that you can actually drive in real life. So Lamborghini finally revealed the no windshield hypercar they've been teasing for months. It's called the SC20, and sadly it's just a customer commissioned car, and only that one will be built. It appears to be Aventador based and runs that car's 6.5 liter V12, but it's been bumped up to 770 horsepower and 531 pound-feet of torque. It also uses the same ISR transmission that those have, and the same all-wheel drive and stuff. Amazingly though, they say it is street legal, so there's no info on how much it costs the owner to build, but I don't know. I hope they drive it, but man, no windshield. You got to be brave. All that Alcantara and that expensive interior just completely open to the elements. It's interesting, but I guess there's some people that enjoy all that kind of stuff. So anyway, yeah, pretty crazy. Only one in the world, so most of us will probably never even see it, but interesting nonetheless. for another extremely rare car. I'm like getting tired of reporting on all these, but they're all cool. It's just like, I wish it'd be something more like at least higher production. Anyway, Pagani has revealed the Huayra Roadster Tricolore. So this celebrates the Italian Air Force's aerobatic team, and it gets a unique front bumper, roof scoop, rear wing, turbine-style wheels. All that is different from a regular Huayra. It also gets this blue carbon fiber body with stripes matching the jets. The interior also gets blue and white seats with green, white, and red accents. But possibly the coolest touch of this thing is an actual airspeed indicator, which will indicate in knots and in Mach. And it has this little reading tube, which is required on the front nose of the vehicle, which is kind of an odd little looking thing, but apparently that's what they need to actually have in order to have that functional. And so that's pretty cool. They could have just done software to, estimate or something, but to actually have a real airspeed thing on there is pretty legit. Mechanically, it's the same engine as other Huayras, but it does get a stiffer chassis from the track car, they say, and interlinked electronically controlled suspension as well. And only 3 of these will be made, and the price of this one is $6.75 million. That's the conversion rate. I'm assuming they're all going to stay in Italy, but maybe there'll be someone in America that buys one of the 3. Who knows? But man, almost $7 million for that. I love Huayras, but I think a normal Huayra is a couple $1 million. To do way more for one of these, I mean, again, it's irrelevant to people that can afford this stuff. And I will move on. So anyway, last little crazy thing here. Hennessey has finally revealed the actual production version of the Venom F5. So I filmed a reveal of the F5 like 3 years ago at SEMA, and since then there hasn't been much other than the release that gave the details on the engine, but otherwise it's been pretty silent. But we now have more info. They've been very busy, it seems. So first, the car has gotten a few design changes. So the body lines have been smoothed over, and the fixed rear wing has been removed, presumably to help it reach its target speed of over 311 miles per hour. The exhaust tips have been rearranged to include 4 in a horizontal arrangement instead of the 3 in a triangle arrangement that it had in the past. We also get a good look at the interior with an aggressive steering wheel, I guess, which is very aggressive and very race car inspired. The specs are still the same though, meaning it runs a 6.6 liter twin turbo V8 for 1,817 horsepower and 1,193 pound-feet of torque. It'll do 0 to 62 miles per hour in under 3 seconds and 0 to 124 miles per hour in under 5. Weighs just under 3,000 pounds, and only 24 of these will be built starting next year. 12 for the US and 12 for the rest of the world. They're going to cost $2.1 million, and then after that they're going to probably do a Roadster version, which will most likely have another 24 or so. They also said that they're going to do a top speed run next year at the NASA Space Shuttle landing strip, and they're highlighting that unlike the SSE Tuatara top speed run, which was very controversial, theirs is going to have Race Logic engineers actually present to install the data recorders and analyze the data and observe everything, along with posting unedited video and GPS data of the run, they say. So we'll see if they can actually do it. If they can, then this could be a little bit of a less disputed top speed king. We'll have to see if they can do it. But anyway, interesting to see that. And there's one last special edition, but at least this one is much more affordable for normal humans. So Alfa Romeo this week announced the 4C Spyder production will be ending, which is very sad. I really enjoyed the 4C. I did a little quick drive on one a couple years back. I never had a chance to do a full review on one because I never had one offered to me, and there was never one in the press fleet in my area. But they're incredible little vehicles, very fun. So anyway, they're going to end with the 2020 model year. There will be no 2021s. And the coupe, we already know, was discontinued last year. And so to give the 4C a special send-off here, they're making this 33 Stradale Tributo edition. So it honors the 33 Stradale from 1967, and only 33 of these will be built. It gets a special red paint called Rosso Vileste and light gold wheels on the outside. On the inside, it gets a unique transparent red covering for the carbon fiber monocoque, which is pretty cool. And there's also tobacco brown leather seats and special badges that all kind of matches up with that car from 1967. They're also going to come fully loaded with the Akrapovic exhaust and the race-tuned suspension. But Alfa Romeo has said that it's actually going to be cheaper than loading up a 4C Spyder yourself the normal way. So it's kind of a value proposition. And so they're going to be costing $81,590. So much more reasonable, even though there are only 33 that are being built. That's actually not going to be probably too hard to get your hands on, because I think they said they sold something like 60 or 70 of these so far in 2020, something like that. So there's not a whole lot of demand for this. So if you really want one of these, you could probably actually get one, which is cool. And so, yeah, but sad to see the 4C go. That was the vehicle that brought Alfa Romeo back to the United States here. I guess aside from the 8C possibly, but it's been an amazing little vehicle, and yeah, it seems like the people who do own them really enjoy them, and it seems like a lot of, I think Haggerty and stuff is saying it's going to be a future classic as well, so this version could be even more collectible, but interesting to see that. Now, on to some future speculation and things like that. Aston Martin's chairman this week spoke at the Future of the Car Summit the Financial Times hosted, and during the event, he reassured that Aston will continue to make and invest in gasoline-powered cars, even if they're not street legal in the 2030s, whenever all these other countries are banning the sale of new gasoline engines. And so it's not going to be a lot of cars, though. He says that by 2030, 5% of business will still always be internal combustion engine. I never see it going down to zero. And so he said this because he believes that there is always going to be enthusiasts that want gas-powered cars and will pay for them, even if they have to pay a premium, and even if they're not street legal. People that, again, buy these track-only things or drive them on private property, whatever, or just collect them, I guess, and, burn the gas and make the wonderful noises they make, even if you're not driving around on public roads. But I believe, we'll have to see how that all pans out, because it was from everything I understood, it was a ban in general on selling them, period. So if you can sell them, but they're not street legal, maybe that's a workaround. I'm not sure how that would play out, so that's all kind of still up in the air. But I guess they could potentially make them and then sell them in other countries like America here, which probably won't have a gas vehicle ban, at least not by 2030, maybe 2035 if we follow California, and that actually happens. We'll have to wait and see on all that. But anyway, but he said that, and then also he clarified that while their current AMG V8 engine is the same as it is in Mercedes products, future AMG engines will be bespoke for Aston, using different outputs and different torque characteristics, among other things. So I don't know if it's going to be as bespoke as like the Pagani V12, which AMG builds for them, or if it's just unique tuning or what, but we'll have to wait and see, but it's going to be more bespoke, supposedly, which is good news. He also confirmed that their future plug-in hybrids and EVs will also be using AMG tech. So lots of mechanical partnerships with AMG here in the future, but that's good, and hopefully it helps Aston Martin to continue to thrive, because supposedly their demand this year has been much better than it has in the past. So I hope that Aston Martin's on the right track with the DBX and stuff, and they continue to thrive as a company. Volkswagen Group this week has confirmed the previous rumor that I talked about several weeks ago, that Bentley will actually be moving from being under Volkswagen to being under Audi starting March 1st. And they say this will allow for synergies to be achieved as part of the electrification strategy of the two premium brands. And when I mentioned this in the past weekly update, there was someone who actually works within Volkswagen Group that kind of explained that doing this move really will help Bentley a lot. It's kind of over my head, but I'm glad that hopefully that will help Bentley out, and so I'm excited that they're making that change. They also shot down rumors that they're selling Lamborghini and Ducati. And they said they plan to keep them for the foreseeable future. They still could end up listing it on the stock market or spinning it off, but it still would be under the Volkswagen umbrella, supposedly. So that's interesting. There still is no word on Bugatti yet, though. So, there's been rumors that they were going to kind of trade Bugatti for Rimac, or a stake in Rimac, and, all that. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. But interesting, at least, to hear about Bentley and Audi. Volkswagen CEO also confirmed this week in an interview with Autocar that they plan to make more lower-cost electric cars even beneath the ID1 and ID2, which we don't even have concepts for yet. So we're talking ways out, but they want to do something really small and affordable to really bring the cost down for electric vehicles, at least in Europe. And so they say that they don't have any details, on exactly what ideas they're floating yet. But I personally have an idea, if anyone from Volkswagen Group is watching. I mean, I know everyone, loves the Beetle, and they just killed off the Beetle, but, I mean, that would be a perfect little tiny electric car with the Beetle. I mean, if you think about it, not only could they make the body shape and stuff exactly like the old ones, because you have really, the skateboard platform, you can put whatever you want on it, but you could have the frunk again because it's an electric car. You can have it be rear motor, rear wheel drive again like the original Beetle, and I think that would really get a lot of people on board with it, because I think some people were a little lackluster with the new Beetle because it was front-wheel drive and, you know, wasn't exactly the same. It was still awesome. My parents had one. I drove it many times and rode in it for a lot of my childhood. They're great little vehicles, but I think that would be super cool. And it'd also be really cheap, because you think about it, the ID3 right now is 4 doors, and we don't know what they're going to do with the ID1 and ID2. But as of right now, there's no 2-door little electric vehicle, just a little people mover, city car type thing. I feel like there still is a market for that, at least somewhere. And I mean, you know, that could be a great way to get the electric revolution going if everyone's back in Beetles, the people mover like it used to be back in the day. And again, have it be rear-wheel drive, rear engine, could give it some pretty decent, you know, ability to go in the snow and all that kind of stuff, and be a nice little low-cost thing that could actually be small, like actually small, not, you know, huge like every other vehicle these days. So we'll have to see. That's my own little, you know, wish list thing, but I think that'd be really cool, especially since we know they're doing the ID Buzz electric bus. So just go with all the retro stuff, Volkswagen. I think people would love it. But anyway, and going along with that, though, the Beetle-inspired ID Buggy concept that they showed off last year at the LA Auto Show, that might not come to reality, at least not for a while, because Volkswagen had hoped that a kit car type company would buy that MEB platform because they're willing to sell it to people to build whatever they want. And they're hoping someone would take that and a specialty company would build the ID Buggy instead of Volkswagen building it themselves, since the amount of demand for that is probably fairly low. And so, but yeah, I guess that plan fell through. So they're still hoping someone builds it eventually, but as of right now, there's no plans to build that. But, you know, so kind of maybe take a little bit of the cues from the ID Buggy, make it an actual hardtop Beetle. That would be super, super cool. Anyway, moving on. Last two little stories this week are about Subaru. So they this week confirmed that they're going to be launching a Forester-sized electric SUV, and so this is going to be for Europe, at least for at first. And so they say more info is going to be coming sometime next year, but they confirmed it's the same one that they were developing with Toyota, and Toyota just confirmed theirs last week, so it makes sense Subaru's doing their announcement this week. And, you know, we don't really know much about it still, but if it's the same setup that Lexus just teased last week that I talked about in last weekly update about, you know, how that is going to be this 402 horsepower, 442 pound-feet of torque, actually fun-to drive crossover that Lexus teased. If that's the same thing that Subaru gets, then watch out, STI owners, because an electric Forester essentially could be like way faster than an STI. We'll see what they do with the new STI. But even if it's 400 horsepower, 400 instant electric horsepower with electric motors in you know, some SUV like this could actually take, you know, even a next gen STI at a drag strip or something possibly. We'll have to see. Now, as far as, you know, again, if it's even going to come to America, that's a whole nother thing, because we know that the EVs will most likely take priority in Europe first because, you know, their laws are a lot stricter and their timeline is a lot quicker than ours is here in America. So there's no rush. That's why that's why Mercedes didn't bring the EQC here, you know, for the 2021 model year or anything like that. So I think, you know, it's the same kind of thing here. So maybe we'll, you know, have to sit on the sidelines for this for a little while, but maybe they'll bring it here. We'll have to wait and see. I'm sure it might come down to battery supply and stuff, because that seems to be the limiting factor for a lot of stuff like the RAV4 Prime. But anyway, so interesting to hear that. And speaking of the STI, though, the last news story this week is that Subaru has announced details for the 2021 WRX and WRX STI. Still the same car. The actual next-gen version, I think, is going to be a 2022 model year vehicle. And so the only changes here are that the STI base price goes up by $250 for no reason that I can see. And the WRX also goes up by $250 on the premium trim, but that's because it now gets push-button start in the premium trim. So previously that was only on limited WRXs and then all the STIs. But now it's brought down to the premium. So the only way to get an actual turn, you know, twisting key in a WRX now is to go for the base, absolute base model. Otherwise, premium and up now gets that. But otherwise, there's no other changes. I still wouldn't put it past Subaru to do a final edition of the WRX and STI, since they love doing their special editions. So I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't hold my breath for that, but I also think that's something they might end up doing. But hopefully, you know, I think the leaked timeline was showing that by next fall, we will see the new WRX, and then the fall of 2022, I believe, is when we're going to see the next generation STI. So maybe the STI will last one more year, but we'll have to see. I think the WRX at least will hopefully come by the 2022 model year. So interesting to hear that. But yeah, that's it for all the news this week, guys. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this weekly update. Let me know your thoughts and everything in the comments below. Please continue to stay safe and healthy. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.